How do you transition, like sometimes a jiu-jitsu move, or even any kind of combative move, it may be effective in real life, but it doesn't read on camera. So there are sometimes when you're on the ground, to the common person, they're like, well, what are they doing? So I guess it depends on the script and the scenario and the scene, but
yeah.
I imagine that being able to modify it to where, yes, it's still legitimate in terms of its technique. It's not like totally bogus. It's still jiu-jitsu, but we kind of just modify it a little bit for the camera. Is that a difficult process?
It's great. So it's in respect to where the camera is,
okay.
Right? So we establish, is this a moving, tracking shot? Is it a fixed, static camera where the camera is multiple camera angles?
Gotcha.
Then we go, the script is the baseline navigation, meaning what environment are we in? What is the director asking for? What is the fight designer asking for? And then we take something like grappling, which is for the untrained eye, incredibly boring to probably watch. So we had to find ways of opening up the hero or the antagonist to camera. And you can do it without it making it look phony or not realistic.
Okay.
It's just there are adjustments to get them so that we're getting the hero shot and we're opening up.
Gotcha.
So there's moves that we modify and do. So, for instance, Nick is here, right? And I'm engaging Nick. I mean, here it's hard to pick up unless we've got cameras, literally almost like GoPros fastened all over us. Or that cameraman gets in, really tight. But if he wanted to do a wide lens and wide, I would have to adjust to where suddenly I'm opening him up in the move, which is a real position to the camera, with respect to the camera. Being aware, not aware. But if I want, right? And then is different than if I'm cutting him from underneath, we're not seeing it. You may see some blood, but this is different.
Yeah. Gotcha.
There's simple adjustments for the most part. And another one is, went over this with that couple. So he's got a weapon, let's just say. I kick off.
Nice.
Right? Come up, chicken wing, but he's opened up the entire time. Then I snap his arm.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay? So this is where back taking really works well in TV and film, because as soon as I get to the back, even in our tussle, I can open him up and keeping in mind where the camera is. And he struggles, he sells a little bit.
Gotcha.
And then with the scripted case, am I here to kill him or am I here to teach him a lesson? Depends, is it a comedy? Is it a drama? Is it Bond? Is it Wick? Right?
Then
Or just
the sound effects and all that.
yeah. So keeping it as real as possible, not overselling it, is always that fine line.
Yes.
But enough so that he's struggling to survive, and then I just get in here, boom. Right, and then maybe you're on to the next person, or you just want to be done with it.
I think
Makes sense?
they did such a...
So just opening up just enough to where the camera's picking up the actors.
Gotcha.
Because it's such I wouldn't play this game. You're very vulnerable, especially with a weapon.
Sure.
But there's not much to see unless the cameras are right here. Right? So everything, we just want everything to be, as and just keeping in mind.
Gotcha. I think they did a good job with, John Wick 1 and 2 particularly, where they were going from judo to aikido to, you can clearly see, I think that's a jiu-jitsu move, and then ending with gunplay. So I think they did a really nice balance.
Chad really and his guys put together a really, really good system. Judo works really well because it's dynamic.
Yes.
And you can dial that up and dial it down also. So for instance, while we're on the subject, so he's on my back and we're struggling, and all of a sudden, let's say I'm just going to create a scene. We're in a hotel room. I get ambushed. He says he's the dining room attendant, so he brings some food in, but he's out to get me, right? So I'm on the couch reading the paper. He jumps on my back, but he doesn't know that I'm an assassin also. So my first instinct is like, what's going on here, right? Or ask him a few questions. But he's helping me with the throw, but it's a real throw. Sure. So to make it more dynamic, like I'm throwing him through a window or a plate glass coffee table. So you're really going to do like okay? So he gets on my back, struggling. And we're off into, right? Or whatever. Gotcha. Or I just pull a gun and be done with it. It just, once again, the script is the script. The director's going to know what they want. There's going to be varying degrees depending on who it is, where you can kind of do your thing. But the script is always the baseline navigation. Theme, tone, pacing. What world is it in? There's a difference between a guy who works for the mob that shows up just to break somebody's arm to teach him a lesson, and an assassin coming in to get it over with. Two different worlds. So you build around that. But judo works really well. That's why you see a lot more of it. The big throws everyone loves.
Yeah.
Just keep them safe and real.
I think that I 100% agree with you. One of my pet peeves about seeing fights, even though they may be great fights, is when it's like, okay, now let's choreograph a fight, but they haven't read the script. So it's like, they're doing all these cool moves, but it's like it's not. It doesn't work for the story. It's not the right tone. It's
right.
over choreographed. And it's like, hey,
that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
Just for the flash, instead of saying, well, okay, so we have blue collar workers. They're in a bar. They just buried a friend's father at a funeral. They go to a local bar outside of Boston, and then they get into an alley brawl. What kind of fighting is that going to be?
They're not going to be doing kung fu.
No, and if they did, shame on them, because the audience subconsciously will go, no. And I grew up in an area, for better or for worse, where it was like, you would weaponize a trash can and use it on somebody.
Sure.
So there was no kung fu and trapping in JKD, with all due respect, I love it, but it was John Wayne hooks. If you caught somebody great, you'd be boot stomping them, you'd ask your buddy to help you, and you'd dump an egg crate over somebody's head. That's a different fight.
Yeah.
But the script is going to, like you said, is going to determine. I don't know how you would start doing that without reading the script, to be honest.
Happens all the time.
Unless you had months where they said, just play around, let's see what we get. Well, that's a lot of time and effort to sort of have to suddenly reverse engineer and say, well, that was all completely. I'd rather just know, okay, what's the world we're in?
Gotcha.
What are the characters? How does this tell the story? If we forget that we're telling a story, we're in trouble. Because everything you do, I don't care what it is, should be propelling into the next scene. What happens next, what happens next.
Absolutely.
Like David does. It's story. If you forget about that, then you're just sort of filling up, buying time. Everything that happens is to lead that into the next doorway, and then the next. And we know the difference, as you say, especially to the trained eye. Because I just rebel against nonsense now. Just don't have time for it. Like I've walked out of stuff.
I agree.
I'm the first to admit it, or I'll shut it off. Because I go, okay, come on.
You know, I was a fan of, still am a fan of this movie that you guys know called Extraction, that Sam Hargrave directed, and 1 and 2 actually, and I love I know they're not really wonders, but he does a beautiful job of making it look like that was a one shot. But I just love how it looks really real and combative and realistic. But everybody, like the stunt team is they're so well rehearsed and they're so good, and just everybody making them look, so good. I mean, it's just amazing work.
Yeah.
I love watching that over and over again.
Part of it is that they all speak the same language. So I have met Sam a couple of times at 8711 and know that at some point you start building a team. The reason you're team building is because you really cut to the chase, so everyone understands, okay, what are we looking at, what are we looking for? And there's a lot of the guesswork is taken out of it, and you save a lot of time, and you get everyone up to speed and at a fighting level and an action level that you don't have to keep looking over your shoulder. The second unit's got it. That's what I've grown to know, and it makes sense. And that applies to the director and his DP and his first and second AD. It's like you notice if you go through their IMDb credits, most of them at a high level are hiring the same friends and people.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? But that's because Sam knew, and he came up with these guys. Like David came up with a certain group of guys and continues to. But he demands a high level, as he should, as everyone should. And the problem we run into is when we kind of just throw it against the wall to see what sticks and see what you can get away with. But I say, why not put the time in and make it to where people are going, I haven't seen that before. It's like with Tarantino, there's a great quote recently somebody sent to me, and he said he was just going off in Tarantino fashion about that script is in you that nobody has seen before, that only you can tell. But rise to that occasion and do it, because nobody else will be able to do it the way you do it. 100%. But if you devote and need to devote 10 to 20 years of your life to make it to the way you're daydreaming about it, then do that. But do not to cheapen it or dilute it. And that applies to this, applies to everything. There's nothing about these, especially when you get into these budgets that go, well, we'll just kind of cut. Why? Because that's what you're going to be remembered for. And that's why people knock on the back door. Right?
Absolutely.
But you don't have to sell anything, because the proof is in the work. It's on the screen.
Absolutely.
But if you look at the history of everybody, that's a lot of time on the mats and in Asano and at Jet, and long before they set foot on a soundstage or their karate or wrestling or whatever it is, it's all part of it.
Sure.
Because there's a work ethic and an integrity behind it. Then you understand story and appreciate every aspect of filmmaking, not just one. And you become an Academy Award-winning director. That's what I've been told. I don't know. So far it seems to work, and they're few and far between. So I always just get that Newt Rockney speech of encouraging everyone to be that. If you want it, this is what it requires. Don't skip steps. Same with the training when I say correctness in the small is correctness to the large, because if you're trying just to get to point Z and you've missed all that in between, you're missing probably 10 to 15 other opportunities. And you may never get to Z.
Gotcha.
You'll learn faster and more slowing down and taking your time and applying the certain concepts and principles.
Agree.
So, you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir here a bit, and we happen to be in a church.
No,
I always make a joke about that. I'm like, yes, we are in a church, so I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah, but you know what? You can never hear it enough. And you
Well,
know
I
what?
remind myself at the same time I'm saying it. I go, that's why I got into this. Because we easily get like pinball machined.
Yep.
And I go, why am I? Oh, because it's that karate class in New Hampshire and my wrestling coach at Ohio State. That's why. That's the letter that needs to be written. Because if that didn't happen, who knows? Right? We all ran away with the circus at some point. Let's face it. Just you want to be with the group that's going to build you up and not tear you down, and you want mentors. Everyone needs a good, solid mentor. And as tough as my wrestling coach was, at the end of the day, it was because that's how he had, the only way he knew how to show that he cared. And he was a Marine drill instructor. And he was ruthless, but at the end of the day, you go, I wouldn't be here if he hadn't done that. You know, that's sort of and I believe, unless I'm totally wrong, but I believe that David and others are passing on that wisdom and knowledge for a reason. And if we're all fortunate enough to get caught in that slipstream, we're really blessed few. You know, it's a St. Crispin speech in Henry V, like, we're lucky. We may not even make it out alive, but we're here.